Welcome back to the mobile studio for all you game changers and you people that are just absolutely out to make your life different, find some fulfillment, pursue extraordinary experiences in life. That's what this channel is dedicated to. If you're not familiar with it, if you haven't followed it before, that's what we do. We're in a different stage right now. So this is the Maturity Project, by the way. I am your host, Chad Everbroshiers, brought to you in my mobile studio. Not all the videos are made this way, but they have, when the requirement in my time and schedule demand it, I have to. So there's all that being said. We are in a growth phase right now, so we're going through some things, myself and my staff, for the project. We're dedicated to giving insights in 8 different areas of maturity, which it's 8 different pillars that hold you up in life in a way that you become functional or less functional. Why you see some people so successful in specific environments and other people not so much, or specific situations, their business, their love life, things like that. They're more successful than other people simply because they're more mature there. Simple. Basic. It makes absolute sense, but at the same time, when you're locked into the mystery of it all, it's really hard to understand that. It's kind of like, well, maybe they're special, maybe they just got lucky in life. Well, if you take specific positions like luck, well, what the hell is luck? Well, luck is preparation meets opportunity. Sometimes it's beyond your scope and ability to actually recognize what the hell you're seeing because you just don't have that depth of insight and view. But it doesn't mean that it isn't structural and strategic, or you couldn't make it strategic, but it has a structural value that gets you there. The more you can recognize that stuff, the more you can recreate it. Luck by playing the lottery, well, yeah, that's so far out of our ability to recognize the patterns of how you actually become successful with it because it is set up to be random. That's going to be something that's on the other side of stuff. But there's other things like, I don't know, I was just lucky. I was in the right place at the right time. Well, if you didn't have the skills to capitalize on it, doesn't matter if you're in the right place at the right time or not, you're not going to be that successful at it. You would not have that wow, this guy really has made it, or this girl or whatever, right? Gender specific or stupid new age nonsense we've got going on. Narcissistic insights. Anyway, so actually narcissistic demands from these people. But anyway, all right, I'm getting caught up on that, and that's a position that I'm working on building up in each individual, not to turn them off because I see the selfishness in that viewpoint, but it is something that I want to reach those people to get them to understand that what you demand other people do for you today is something that will hurt you tomorrow. It is not going to make you successful, even if you get success in some degree right now. It is long-term damaging. So, because we can't have a world that caters to each other the way that these ideologues are trying to prepare our students and children into believing. So, all right, now, to the point of today's video, it's not just about the declaration of what we do and how we do this. Today's is more about, hey, how do you create a different life for yourself? We have so many different ways we could do something. We are so capable of stuff, it's insane. We hear it, motivation videos. You hear it from people that are successful. They say you can be anything you want to be. Why are we so far from what they're saying to our experience? It's like, well, yeah, you can say that you're successful. Yeah, you can say that you've made it. Yeah, you can say that you're lucky. You're born in the right family. Creating all this shit. Well, here, let's address this. Born in the right family. Okay, what did that family do to prepare itself to be successful? Because the actions they took made them successful. And what about your family did not take those actions in order to prepare for the future? If you're in survival, you don't prepare for the future with survival. You just get through the moment. Now, if you're in the preparation for the future, which is actually part of the Thrive model, which I teach 3 different models when it comes to dealing with hardships and conflict. And the Thrive model is the best. They're the ones that are preparing for the future. They're using education. They're arming themselves with knowledge that works. It's a functional level of knowledge. So if you say, yeah, born in the right family, well, then make your family the right family. And if you're like, well, I can't do that. Well, then, yeah, you can't. You're right. You put the curse on yourself. Now, by the way, to say that you can't do something is to curse yourself for your abilities to be able to do it. Now, I'm not able right now is not the same statement as I can't. I'm not able right now means you're not prepared enough for it. You may not have the living experience of it. You may have everything right now, full strategy, full development, full maturity that's necessary to be successful. But since you have not practiced it before, it's not, you just don't have that level of knowledge, and you may not have enough belief in yourself to take the action to even do it. So some of those beliefs to take the action in order to do it could simply be, I'm going to risk something by doing this. I'm going to risk something by taking this action. I'm going to risk more than just my time, which people could also put a real deep value on time. And, that's perfectly fine. You should, because it's something else that you have as a resource. But other people devalue their time because they have that in abundance by comparison to, say, money or influence with other people or whatever the resource is that's being considered to be higher value. I promise you this, though, people that are in a state of dying sure do see time as incredibly expensive. So anyway, all right, back to point. You can change everything and anything. If it's the right family, well, then make the right family. If it's the right person, well, they met the right person. They married the right person. What actions did they take in themselves? What did they develop in themselves in order to attract that person into their life? What fights did they go through? How did they develop themselves? How do they develop themselves as the individual? How do they develop themselves as the relationship? And how do they develop themselves as their relationship to everyone else? But if you're going to sit there and be like, well, they're just special, you put them in a category that you are outside of the ability to obtain. Now, if you think tomorrow you're going to have what they have today and you've done nothing to build up to that, you're playing for lottery. Well, you're going to likely be disappointed because next to no one achieves that. It is such a small percentage of people that get to that level of success by accident. Now, they may have accidental values in their process and preparation, but they're still strategically sound enough that they have a higher likelihood of being successful. So, you can create anything and everything. It's just if you're attached to a specific timeline, which is good to have timelines, by the way. Absolutely. You need to be able to establish milestones and things. You need to be able to qualify the time that you have spent doing something with the actions and the resources that you have allocated for that particular thing that you want to accomplish. Yeah, you're going to have to take a stepping stone to reevaluate or to evaluate where you're at. Because once you can do that, then you can say, actions I've taken, I've got study value on because I can see what I've done, so I'm learning that this action equals this result, and the magnitude of what that does to everything else. And you can continuously build that into a model that can be recreated and repeated and can be taught, which is what those families do, is they teach those models of success to their youth, and they do not let that child get away with not learning it. It's very built into the way that their families work. But you can look at it as a milestone. I look back and I see I was successful. It gives you the ability to critique and to dial in whether or not that's a successful move or a successful series of moves or resource allocation. Just be aware what you believe or how long it takes you to get there to what it really takes is almost never identical. It's usually never the same. So if your attachment is next week, you're a certain person or you have specific accesses, then you need to see how big of a move it is you're trying to create. And there's a lot more to it than to just say, hey, I'm going to will this into existence. I'm not a big fan of The Secret, which is the Secret, the book, and there's a movie that went with it and all of this stuff where you just will things into existence. Now, I do believe that there's a lot that we are capable of that our subconscious mind is aware of that we on a conscious level are not quite there. And it can recognize patterns that we ourselves may not necessarily recognize or likely don't recognize, but that's where we get that gut feeling kind of thing. But we can see there's so much that we're aware of that we can actually build into to be successful. So, while I'm in my mobile studio here. All right. So you just look at whatever those success models are. Just try not to be so attached to a timeline. You need to have timelines because you have to create, you're better off to create schedules. You're better off to create your own project management flowchart. It'll help. It absolutely will help as long as you are in earnest on your efforts. Most of us will only ever be professional for our work, for whoever it is that we work for, and not for ourselves in our life. I've got to be somewhere on time. When I'm not working, that's not that big of a deal. Oh, well, I'm going to meet up with some friends. We're supposed to meet at 8. Yeah, I'll probably get there around 8:30, or 8:30, 8:45, something like that. But yeah, at work, you'd be written up, you'd be in trouble, right? Well, it's just my friend. So your friends have less value to you than your work. There's a lot there, right? Try to take your life on as being more of a professional project. Give it that level of effort. You don't want your life to fire you, right? Well, you want to get promoted in life, right? Well, you've got to do things to get promoted. Why do we only do that for professional? And even then, for professional, you're only looking to get promoted within the structure that they have to offer you. You're not looking to get promoted within a bigger concept. Most people are not looking at how to get a higher level position with another company. They're just like, within this company, I want to become a manager. I'm working at entry level, or I'm wanting to become a mid-level management. I'm working at bottom end management or something. It's like you got a lot more potential. Now, I'm not saying everybody needs to be a CEO, because then nothing would get done. We have too many people that are just out to, create all these decisions and stuff. But you can absolutely function in your life as you're the CEO, because you are. You need to be making the calls that make you successful. You need to be making the calls that show that your investment means something to you. So you can really have everything you want. It's just a matter of how do you get other people enrolled in it. And at the same time, also be open to the fact that what you think you want right now is not exactly what it is that you're going to end up with, but you'll be incredibly satisfied with what you end up with. A lot of the things that we think we want are fantasies. They're the facade of what's true. People are like, well, I want to be that wealthy person who lives on the water and has, an unlimited bank account, and it could, it's got FU money. And then you pay attention to what they're doing, and they're working all the time. You're like, wait a minute. When you get there, you'll realize it. If you were to recreate exactly that person has, and you're like, well, I wanted to do all that so I didn't have to work. There's things that happen along the way. Work may suck right now to you because you don't get the reward that would make it more desirable and pleasurable for you. The other person has gotten so conditioned through their timeline in life and their process of practices that they went from being less successful to being successful, and now it seems like the majority of the moves they make are successful. It feels good. It changes from a work dynamic of the servitude thing to something to a pleasure-driven work dynamic where you're just like, wow, that actually feels good. If I say X and X happens, wow, that's awesome. It's what happens when you become more of an expert at something. It feels good to do that thing you're an expert at. So there's no difference. People want to sit back and be like, I wish I had the best or the dream relationship. Well, go fucking create it. But first off, you got to create it within you. You have to be who you want to date. If you want honesty, are you honest? If you want loyalty, are you loyal? If you want adventure, are you adventurous? It's like there's this big thing to talk about, but yet people don't seem to want to talk about it. Or they don't know they can talk about it. Most people are going to enroll you in the drama, not the possibility. The potential of success is something you absolutely can have in every conversation. But if all you want to do is talk about how somebody else is doing something that you think is wrong, or that, just getting caught up in whatever the hell that they're doing, like, caught up in the Kardashians, I don't give a damn about that. If I'm going to give a damn about it, I'm looking at the business model they're working as and how their family works together and how that works and what the TV companies and their contracts with the production company and the TV show that's actually, or whatever, the channel that's paying them for their to look into their life. Also, what would be the trade-off if somebody were to do that in their own life? Like, it's, what is it, a 40-hour-a-week thing? Where like, okay, between these hours, we're going to have film crew here, and then outside of these hours, the film crew's not going to be here, we can be ourselves. Like, there's a lot there, and they're like, oh yeah, and then to find out also as you research into this stuff, like how people are purposely provoked in order to create better content. Create content that's engaging. I know it's not real. Big Brother proved this, right? A lot of people came out and they're like, yeah, they just kept telling us to do stupid shit. They kept telling us to get upset about something we really weren't upset about, but to act it out because there's an opportunity to possibly pick up a celebrity position. It's pretty interesting when you get into that. But regardless, I know I tangented out there, but that's what I do. I look into the depth of what's behind it all. I want to know what's running behind the curtain, not what's being put on the curtain, right? Whatever's on the projector, I want to know where all that data came from. I want to know what inspired the person that's presenting it in the first place, and then what's their payoff? What do they get out of it? None of this is for cynicism. This is all in study. I want to know. I want to be able to gain something from that. I don't want to spend that time just going, oh, kicking my balls. Oh, my balls. Which is, if you're not familiar with that, there's a movie called Idiocracy. It's made by Mike Judge, which is the creator of Beavis and Butthead. It's such a great fucking movie. Anyway, this guy, it's the base of it is that people have gotten so stupid in the movie. They've degraded over the centuries into being really, really developmentally retarded, if you will, and by nature. It's arrested development to the point that they have no real function. Like, they're incredibly low IQ. And one of the shows that they watch is called Oh My Balls. And it's just a series of this dude getting kicked in the balls. And it's like, it just keeps, it's absolutely stupid. But that's also what I see when people watch the curtain, the projection screen, when things like the Kardashians on. It's really just a kind of a little more sophisticated version of Oh My Balls. It's like the drama of their life is not interesting to me. The method and reason for the drama to be produced like that and to be brought out into, the entertainment world, or why that drama became entertainment, that stuff's interesting to me. But it's also to help get other people to not be stuck in the zombie-like trance that stuff produces. It's not like a full-on zombie-like trance in the sense of like walking around without any kind of autonomy, but it's what will fill your mind to think about things that prevent you from thinking about other things, right? Like, you're like, did you see on that last episode? You could have just brought up, hey, by the way, we changed paper distributors, but I'm not sure why we did it. Do you know anything about this? Because it would be great to understand, maybe we've got a better deal with this. What kind of conversation took place in order to get that deal? Was it the weight of the company? Was it a negotiation thing? Like with that's actually using curiosity to find out in a work setting, something that could be beneficial for you in the long run. Let's say you make your own company. Well, now you're actually pulling in more data that could help you understand the process to getting a better deal, or why change paper. Was it because of the quality? Was it because of the dependability of the delivery? What was it? Why did it get switched? Versus, I heard they had this big fight or blowout or whatever, just something stupid. I couldn't tell you. I don't watch the show. Outside of what little bit I have watched was for the purpose of observing the other aspects of it. There's no loyalty to any character, no fandom on my part when it comes to the people in the show, other than the fact that I appreciate the fact that they've become wealthy, but I don't appreciate the effects of what that has done to the world, because it continues to lock people in the trance. Now, as I build a model to help separate people from that trance or free them up from it, then I can appreciate that drama model because it's built against that. It's an antidote to it. That's the way I think. That's the way that I am. The Maturity Project is intended to do this, but it's in every aspect of our life. You understand the foundation of it. And the way the Maturity Project works is there's 8 different areas of maturity. Now, each one of these are a representation of a pillar. And a pillar is elevating you, based on a foundation of who you are, the base level of who you are, and then every area beyond that, the base level. You just exist. You have these functions, the basic things. You can make friendships. You can change your body by exercise and or what you eat. You can, you get an allowance, or there's a base level first paycheck or something like that. It's all on that base level. It's all your foundation. You build from that, because then you start maturing it. What happens is that we get people that, let's say, I'll give you the 8 areas, and I'll give that, because I have done this many times, but I'll continue just in case you're new to this. 8 areas of maturity is: 1 is physical body, 2 is your community, 3 is your cognitive or intelligences, 4 is your emotions, 5 is your finance, 6 is your business, 6 is sexuality, 7, Freudian slip, 7 is sexuality, and 8 is spirituality or purpose. So of those 8 areas, where have you been developing? And then your identity will associate some values with that, and that becomes part of the way you express yourself. That also adds into the chemistry of who you are, that leads other people to like or dislike you, that kind of stuff. So you have that going on, and then we'll have the early authorities early on that help us understand: parents, people that your parents associate with that come around you, the base level of what you understand when it comes to the way society works, but at the base level from the family looking out, which is like very young. You have that stuff, and you're being influenced based off their maturity levels and exactly how they can teach it in a noteworthy and functional way. Because memorization is not great unless memorization leads to action. It's good to be able to memorize things. That's a benefit, and it is an area of intelligence. But you have to be able to make that information work. You have to have that ability to make that information do something for you. So when you're dealing with the way your parents have raised you and what you get what they have to whatever degree they can communicate that to you. There is a natural loss over time because there's just too much value in the way that we teach that can't be communicated within that moment, right? Like what you're learning today may not have experience in your past to help you understand what you're being taught, but you can cognitively qualify it, but you may not be able to have the bigger picture because you cannot experientially qualify it. You just know it. You have some sort of a branching value that helps you go, oh, okay, that all makes sense, this and that. You function in that kind of experience, in that kind of world where you kind of know something, right? And it's no knock on anybody. How can you know fully something when you first learn it? Now you have to have life come at you in a way that becomes a knowledge level utility that works for the environment's demand, so that you come out in a way that you're less scathed or more successful with more accumulated, whichever it is. You just survived it or you thrived in it. That's the way that our teaching works. So our parents can give us whatever degree level that they can give us. I don't foresee 100% communication, life experiences, and education coming from our parents to us. They're just doing what they can to communicate with their own lives going on, teach us how to be successful to whatever degree the moment calls for. I need you to be successful at doing this job. I need you to be successful at going to school. I'd like for you to be successful at your relationships. I'd like you for, like all the things you'd like for the person to be successful at. And then you give them the insights from your experiences as being the parent, but the child doesn't have enough life experience to fully take that in yet. Life has to happen, and then they have to be able to reclaim that from their tool set, from their experiential tool set on top of their knowledge base, so that they don't go into events being ignorant. But again, your parents can only teach you so much before, there's just there's a net loss over time per every generation. There's always, foresee a net loss unless you have an incredibly organized family structure, like we mentioned earlier about, born in the right family. A lot of them realize you need to start teaching things differently and focus harder on teaching effectively versus teaching and trying to figure out how to survive. Because when you're teaching and trying to figure out how you survive, the focus is the majority of the lesson is to try to be offset, but not the absolute portion of the lesson. And there's typically not some place to really practice the lesson other than what's currently happening, and they don't know much about the event. So they're trying what they're learning, but they may have miscommunicated. They may be using different definitions or different angles on the definition that make it less effective. And then if they're like, well, that didn't work, then they question their authority. If the authority is giving half-assed information because they're distracted by their own challenges in life, then the child may start to disqualify the information being taught to them because it's just not showing up to be as effective. But then they see their peers with information that looks to be effective for them, not realizing the foundation that they have to be successful is different than their own. They just look at them and think they're the same. We've been taught since we were little, we're all the same, right? Well, we're not. We have developmental differences. We have base level knowledge differences. We have functional knowledge differences. A lot of it's the experience and knowledge levels of life, and that's what we're missing. So, what this is, you can have anything and everything you want. You just have to know how to start accessing this stuff. Most of us are waiting for the lottery. We're working towards stuff, absolutely, but we don't have necessarily a holistic structure to it, but you may have a structure specific to the subject, which is fine too. It's better than no structure at all, but you have to understand how what you're learning today applies to so many other things. The formula in which you think, or the mechanics of thought, as well as how what you've learned today in this category is beneficial in this other category that doesn't necessarily seem like it's associated, but it still is supportive because you're a holistic being, right? How everything complements and supports each other. It's just not all of us realize what that looks like or how that works. So, all right, with all that being said, you can have anything and everything. It doesn't matter what it is. You do have to understand what your version of that is, but you won't know that until you get there. And then we'll have to talk about how to appreciate it when you get there, because a lot of us will dismiss it because it doesn't look like what's on the poster, right? It doesn't look like the previews to what you watch in the movie's not quite the same. You're led to believe something different about the movie. You watch it and you're like, I'm not sure if that was the same movie. If that makes sense, right? I'm sure that you sat in the movie theater, watched the previews for something, got really excited, got you really going, right? And then from there, you're like, okay, well, you know, this is a great movie. I want to watch it. You watch it and you're like, the hell? Where did they get that footage? You know, some of it wasn't even in the movie. You know, or you know, it seemed like the storyline was going to be richer than it was. You get all of that stuff going on. Same thing with life. You don't know what it's going to be like. You know, it's just you have the fantasies that you filled in. It's the same experience, by the way, as like meeting your author, the author of your, like whoever your favorite author is. You meet this person as your favorite author, and then they're like, you know, you've been reading their books. Every time you read something that they've produced and think about them, if they're your favorite, you'll have association with who they are to who you are. You'll fantasize in some degrees about how a conversation would go with the two of you. You know, it's like there's a lot that we fill in as we get to feel closer and closer to our author. They don't know a damn thing about you other than the fact that you're just one of the readers. That's it. So when you meet them and then you find out they're not connected to you as you've convinced yourself you're connected to them. But again, this isn't like a sit around mental health issue where you're like, oh, I know this person. I love this person. They're going to love me, or they do love me. Whatever the projection of an actual relationship would be. They're making this phantom relationship, if you will, where they just feel that, you know, this person's going to care for them in a way that they want them to care for them. And then when they meet them, they realize that this person doesn't know them. But that's not so much they realize a person doesn't know them. They realize a person is going to treat them the way they thought they would. They may be dismissive. They may not spend enough time with them. They may not, whatever, right? So it hurts to meet your author at times, your favorite author. Same thing when it comes to what your goals are like, except it's not so much hurt about that as it is that you just don't know what it looks like to be successful, and you may pass it up, and not you may have achieved it and not gave yourself enough time to actually qualify that you did it. Because once you qualify that you did it, it strengthens your resolve for the continued process. So you don't feel like you're wearing yourself out by not hitting a milestone that actually rewards you by giving you the second to go, my efforts are not in vain. They're actually working very well for something and working towards this outcome that I want. But first, you've got to start somewhere. So to close this all up, you got to start somewhere. Typically, it's going to be whatever the thought is that you enjoy. And by the way, whatever thought it is that gets you started does not need to be the one that actually continues to carry you through. You get started on it, then you may realize from what you've done with that particular thought as you put it into action or start creating something to make it real and not just something floating around in the ether of your head, you know, with the inside of the gray matter. You have the awareness that this may not actually be something I want. And it may not be because of the workload. It just may be because the reality of it isn't that great. It isn't what you fantasized it to be. So you work on that to better understand whatever it is. And then if you abandon it because it just isn't what you want, it's not abandon it because it's too hard. It's abandoning it because it just really turns into what you didn't want. It wasn't really that. It was just the idea of it was kind of cool. But the process that it took to realize that is beneficial for the next idea. And it's just keep rolling it in. Before you know it, you're building a habit of taking things from thought to action. From there, you're going to pick up new skills because you're making action, and action's teaching you new things. My goal and the way that I would suggest you guys do it is to write it out, put it on something, write it down. And whatever it is that you have done is just continue to journal it, right? Journal your efforts, what resources you've used on it, journal what timeline you think you should have a return on it, things like that. Because when you create a developmental partner, like I will teach about in the future, that developmental partner can get you to evaluate from a different perspective what you're doing and how successful that can be. And you guys become partners in growth. Now, it gets to the point where you have multiple partners in growth, where you have the people that are closest to you are constantly in the same subject of opportunities and growth, even though they may be working on other things, they're still working on stuff. That's a beautiful place to be with people. So, as this continues on, my point about it all is that you can absolutely create a lot in life, but what it's going to take to get from here to what you believe success is the pieces that are all around you all the time. You just don't know how to either see them or how they line up. And you don't know how they contribute to one another, so you just do whatever it is you do and wait for, with an expectation, something be different. Waiting for the lottery or waiting for the right time to show up. A creator doesn't wait for the right time to show up, they make it show up. Somebody who's just waiting for life to happen can find success, but it's a restricted and throttled success because they're not being the creator of it. There's a lot more that goes into this. The Maturity Project will teach that. And continue with this channel. Subscribe. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. If you found value in what I've talked about today or any other video, hit the bell notification so you know when these things go live. And yeah, let's see here. Like the video. It helps with the algorithm. Share this video with the person in your life you want to break the ice with. Start a conversation of meeting with. And yeah, let's get into action, man. A little bit of action, a little bit is better than none. And eventually it'll turn into a habit of significant action, which action will give you results. So even if it's not the desirable results, you learn from those. Don't get emotionally burnt till you don't act, right? Now, put that into a category of effort to frustration to energy for more versus effort, frustration, defeat. No, it's your choice. You want to be that legacy family? Create it. If you want to be successful, you got to start creating it. You don't know the history the person has put into it. You don't know what they put on the line, what risks, what did they lose, what's behind the scenes that you don't know about. They may be successful in business, but yet they have a horrible family life or no family life. They may be single and can't find somebody to date because they just don't have the interest in people that are not up to something. Self-isolated. There's all kinds of things. You don't know what's going on behind the scenes. But we just get really, really attached to watching and looking at the outcome somebody else is showing or what you can observe that they have. You can have anything and everything in this life. You just got to work for it. Don't expect it to be given to you. And it's going to take real work. Work with strategy gets results. So let's create that strategy. This is about fulfillment. 8 different areas to fulfill your life. I'm your host, Chad Everett Broshears. This is the Maturity Project. Please join me in the future on top of, join me now. Let's get after it, man. We got a world to address. And let's face it, success is up to us. And success is also fulfillment in life. No one's going to give you fulfillment, man. You got to get it yourself. So, all right. Catch you on the next one. See ya.